And today I'm going to make one of those wonderful Goan specialities. It's called Ambotik. Really, Ambot means sour and tik means pungent. So it's a lovely dish which is a combination of something that's hot, which is in this case chilies, and lime, or if you are fortunate to add fresh mango. What I'd like to do first is to introduce you to the ingredients that we have. So let's look at the ingredients. So I have now the ingredients that I need to make a fish ambotik. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you first to the ingredients. This is Bombay ducks, or as we call them, bombil, which I have cleaned. What you need to do is clip off the head, clip off the tail, and take off the fins that are in between, and then just remove the stomach cavity. It is very easy to clean this fish, so don't really be nervous about it. I now have the main ingredients. I have got about 12 Kashmiri chilies. Again, you can use Bedgi chilies and Kashmiri chilies in combination. Please don't drop the number of red chilies if you think it's going to be too hot. What you can do is de-seed them, and that will take off the heat, but you really want the color which comes from the chilies. I have one large onion, or you can take 2 medium onions, just coarsely chop it, a small 1/4 piece of ginger, about 5 cloves and a small piece of cinnamon. Then there are 8 cloves of garlic, a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin or jeera, a 1/4 teaspoon of haldi, some sugar which I need, and also a bowl of tamarind. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind all these ingredients except this raw mango. If you have fresh mango, green mango, it's excellent. So with the exception of this, I'm going to grind all of this, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So we have ground our masala, and what I do is generally I take the dry masalas and I grind it in spice mixture. Now the spice mixers are something like this, okay? This is actually a coffee one, but I use it since I don't grind coffee. And this way you get your powder really fine. And then I will add the wet items to a larger grinder and then mix the two together. As a consequence, you get this lovely paste. Now grind this mixture for a while, because you'll realize that the red color deepens as you grind it. So I've got almost a cup full of this. What I also do, and I'd like to share some tips with you, is we're making bombils. So the head and the tail of the bombils, which we normally discard, I boil and I make into a stock. I recommend you do this because this has all the wonderful flavor also to the dish. And remember, I would like to use fresh green mango, but I've dried mango this summer and I'm going to add some of this. So what am I going to do now? I'm simply going to heat the pot, and remember, I like cooking in earthenware pots. Many of you have been asking me, where do I get my earthenware pots from? There are some that are available online, but I have purchased these from Kerala, and I find that the Kerala pots have got wide mouths, so they are far better than the Goan ones where you tend to struggle a bit. I prefer using this. Now what do you do with a pot when you first get it? Make sure that you season it, soak it in water for about 24 hours, and then some people after that continue to boil water in it at least 2 or 3 times. But really, when your pot inside gets nice and black, you know it's a well-used pot. So I've added oil into this mixture. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fry this masala a bit. Now, please don't over fry masalas. So I'm going to add all of this into it. So my pot was hot. Now, generally, if you add extremely hot oil and masala all at once, it's just going to splutter. So what I do is I allow my pot to get hot, and then I put in the oil, and you can see already the transmission of heat in earthenware and in cast iron is absolutely fantastic. So the whole cooking process in earthenware and cast iron is quite different. Now don't get panicky, because you need to learn how to, you get used to your pots after some time, literally. And also with your food, you'll realize that cooking in one oven and cooking in another is quite different. So it takes you time to get used to your own earthenware. So I'm frying this masala, and you can see it has this beautiful, deep, rich color, and you want the color, yeah? And that's the reason why I said don't compromise on the number of chilies that you use. So I'm giving this a good fry, and I'm constantly stirring because I don't want the masala to burn. You can reduce the heat a little if you're not used to having your hand right over the pan. So there you go. As you can see, I'm constantly stirring this. If I just allow it to be, it's just going to start erupting like a volcano. And so in order that it doesn't splutter, you stir it and you take the heat off it. And having now mixed both the oil and the masala well, this is the time when I'm going to add the fish stock to it. Now if you haven't made a fish stock, that's perfectly all right. What you can do is simply add good old water. So what I'm going to do now is allow this to boil for roughly about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll bring it to a boil and then reduce it to a simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'm going to show you what this really looks like, and then we will add the fish. So let this simmer now for the next, at least for the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to cover that now. So I have been allowing this gravy to simmer for about 10 minutes. Let's see what it looks like now. And there you go. You can see it's got, you can get the lovely fragrance, and then it's got this lovely reddish orange color. It might form a bit of a skin on top, that's fine. Just stir it. Now this is the consistency that you want it. Very often you find sometimes these curries which have a very runny consistency. Now at this stage, I am going to add a couple of these dried mangoes. I'm not going to put too much because I have used a ball of lime. And here goes the fish. Now remember that Bombil, Bombay ducks, does not need to be cooked to death. Yeah, most fish, if you notice, even when we fry it, is really over fried fish. So please don't over fry your fish. It should be nice and moist and tender in the center. Now I'm just going to allow this to come to a boil, and at this stage I'm going to add salt. Now why do I add salt last in this dish? Because I always taste it to make sure that it's not too salty. So a little salt. Remember, less salt is better. You can always adjust. And very technically, my dish is over. You can see the oil floating on the top, which is indicative to you that the curry has been cooked. So I'm just going to bring this now to just a quick boil, and then I'm going to close this dish and let the bombils cook in its own heat. And that's the key thing. Let it cook in its own heat. Don't be afraid it won't be raw. Cover it, leave it for about, let it come to a boil, leave it for about 10 minutes to cook in its own heat, and the dish is done. So it's coming to a boil. I'm going to cover this dish. I'm going to turn off my gas in about 10 seconds, and then I'm going to let it rest for 10 minutes, and I will show you what the final product looks like. So I have turned off the gas for 10 minutes and I've simply allowed the fish to cook in its own heat, and that's what it should look like. The lovely curry floating, the oil floating on the top. You've got this beautiful curry, and now you want to serve it. Be very gentle with your fish because you don't want it to break. Be extremely gentle. This is a very gentle fish, and that's why I said you really don't need to overcook it. And now I'm just going to add some of this lovely gravy, and I'm going to top this up with curry leaves, though most Goans would not. I'm really in love with the flavor of curry leaves. When you're serving, put a bit of the nice oil also on the top, and there you go. And so what I'm going to do is just add now a sprig of curry leaves before I serve it. And here is Ambotik.